Good evening. My name is Mercury Payton, and welcome to On Deck with Mercury. This month, we have a wonderful topic to discuss, and that is the Mon Robinson Sidewalk project. And I have some awesome guests with me here this evening. I have Mayor Linda Colbert with me, as well as the Director of Public Works, Mike Gallagher, as well as Angela Sorrell, who's the Chair of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee and a member of the Transportation Safety Commission. So welcome to all of you. Glad to have you all here with me. And before we get started, there's just a few things I'll mention real quickly, and that is try to stay safe, everyone, by washing your hands. Stay home if you're sick. Make sure that you social distance properly, and wear your face covering as frequently as possible. Those are things that we can do to slow the spread. So we'll get started this evening with the first few questions, and I think, Mike, you drew the short straw there in getting the first few. So the town of Vienna has received this generous gift that is going to allow us to build about 3.3 miles of additional sidewalk in the town. Can you tell us more about the goal of this initiative and some of the parameters of the Maud Ferris Charitable Trust that is funding these sidewalks?
Sure. Thank you, Mercury, for inviting me to this panel. In a nutshell, the goal of the trust is to really improve pedestrian safety, enhance the community, improve pedestrian accommodations in areas of the town that really wouldn't ordinarily be ranked high on the list to receive a sidewalk. And some of the parameters are for new sidewalks. It's for new sidewalks, so it's not for replacement or maintenance. Projects not already funded in our capital improvement plan or otherwise bond funded or grant funded. And one of the big parameters is the time frame. We have 5 years from the time the trust was established, which was October of last year. So now we're down to 4 more years to spend and build sidewalks. So we're excited about it, and we're anxiously working on it.
That sounds great. So how are we as a town, how are we determining which streets should receive the sidewalks?
Well, as I mentioned, the primary purpose of the fund is to build sidewalks, and it was clear in the trust that it's for sidewalks only. So many times when we have a sidewalk project, I'll give Fallen Lane as an example. We built sidewalk on Fallen Lane, but we also built the curb and gutter and the storm infrastructure. Well, that project was about a $1.7 million project, and sidewalk was a pretty small portion of that. So we can't use the trust fund to build a improvement like Fallen Lane. So what's rising to the top is a street that already has all the infrastructure built. So a street that already has curb and gutter. So then we're just building the sidewalk itself and any sort of ancillary improvement necessary in order to build that sidewalk.
I know that the town is reaching out to residents on streets that have been identified to offer them an opportunity to provide feedback. So what's our process? How are we going about that?
The first thing we do is we send out a letter to property owners on each street that's a potential project. And in that letter, we explain what the trust fund is, we explain the benefits of sidewalk, and we ask the resident or the property owner for their feedback. And so in those letters, we include a self-addressed stamped envelope so that they can return their response directly back to the town. We also include an email address, sidewalks@viennava.gov, so that they can respond by email if they prefer that. Or also, in the latest letters that went out, we have a link, an online link where they can put their comments right online and answer the questions right online if they didn't want to do any of that. And of course, they can always call here, 703-255-6380 is the Public Works line, and they can be connected to a staff member.
This next question is for the mayor, and Mike, you can obviously chime in. Why is this such a special opportunity for the town?
Wow. Well, sidewalks are expensive. And, one of the things that we've been trying to do is make Vienna more walkable. People are, and of course now more than ever, people are out walking. They are pushing their kids in strollers. They are, we have people in wheelchairs. We have people young, old, all ages. And we want it to be safe for them to walk. Sidewalks do so many great things for our community. So I think, usually when we try and get funding for, Mike can speak to this much more, but when we try to get funding for sidewalks, we get grants, and sometimes it's walk to downtown or walk to Metro or walk to a school, safe routes to school. But this is just a gift that no strings attached. It's just beautiful. And so that's how I see this. It's just amazing that we have this.
Yes. Mary, as you mentioned, that when we do have a grant, there are strings attached. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Those are strings for a reason, but they do add a lot of time and cost to a project. And a lot of times grants have a local match requirement. So sometimes it's 20 to 50% of the project cost the town has to fund. With this grant, it's we don't have to deal with outside agencies. We don't have the delay of schedule associated with that. So we're luckily we can just go right and spend the money, and that's a good thing because we have now 4 years to do it.
Right. This was also for the mayor and Mike as well. So why is the town of Vienna so excited about this opportunity? What benefits will these sidewalks bring to Vienna?
Well, certainly what I've already mentioned is just having, our town be more walkable for everybody. But, another aspect of having sidewalks in town that some people don't think about is it can get cars off the street. So it definitely can help with traffic. We talk about having a parking garage that gets cars off the street. People can park and then they can walk. Well, they're not going to walk if they don't have a safe sidewalk to walk on. And so that's all over. That's downtown. That's in neighborhoods. And I think we all see more and more people out walking. And, we want kids to be able to walk to school. So there's all those benefits. I know Mike and Angela probably have some other things to talk about, too.
Yeah, Angela.
Sure. Yep. And to add on to that, in addition to getting cars off the street, I also think it'll be safer and a better experience for the cars that are on our streets. Because if you look at a street like Plum, that's one of the ones that's early, if I remember correctly. Plum Street had curb and gutter, no sidewalks on either side, and it's a feeder down to Vienna Woods Pool. And so often in the summer, you would have kids on bikes going down the street. You would have individuals walking for exercise or walking to the pool. And cars had to dodge all these pedestrians and cyclists. It was a little bit like leapfrog to get around everybody. So I think the sidewalks will make it a better experience for vehicle traffic, for pedestrians, for kids learning to ride bikes on the sidewalks, for residents trying to walk their dogs. And in addition to it being such a great gift today, it's also the future of this town, too. These sidewalks aren't just for the residents that are in those houses today. It's the families that will be there in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So it truly is a gift that's going to keep giving back to this town.
Yeah, I can certainly identify, even where I live, my wife and I, we walk, and there's no sidewalk on either side. And so even when we're walking with some of our children, our 5-year-old, 7-year-old, we're trying to navigate the cars there. So we can identify with that as well.
Yeah, Mercury, can I say one more thing?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Well, no, Angela said such great things. It made me think about, I was driving the other day and I saw a woman and she was in a wheelchair and she had a dog. Now, that takes up a lot of space. And so I was just thinking about how our new sidewalks are 5 feet. Is that correct, Mike? And our older sidewalks are, 3 feet? Is that correct? 4, 3, 4?
Mostly 4 feet. Some of them are 3 feet.
It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. I mean, you can actually walk next to someone, or you can, walk your dog or your baby stroller, whatever, like this woman. And she was out in the street, so I was thinking about that, too. Those were good points.
Yeah. This next one's for Mike and Angela. When you've talked with residents, I know you're out about a lot, about adding sidewalks to their street, what have been some of their concerns or questions?
Okay. One of the biggest ones is trees. Obviously, to build a sidewalk, and if there's a tree in the way, that's certainly a concern. And from the town's perspective, we try to save trees as much as we can. We look at the health of the tree, first of all, and if it's a healthy tree, we really try to look at our design and see how we can be innovative and how we can mitigate any tree removals. We use a lot of, when we're dealing around trees, we do a lot of what's called porous sidewalks, or kind of like a rubber material sidewalk, where that can go right on top of a root system instead of it having to be cut to build the sidewalk. There's roots to be cut to build the sidewalk. But we can't save all the trees, certainly, and if it's in poor health, that's a good risk to remove. But we make really strong efforts to try to save trees, and we've even, if they're small enough, we transplanted trees before too. So.
And I know Angela's about to chime in, but
Sure.
But it sounds like, though, if a resident has a concern about a tree or something else that might be an obvious obstacle, you'll work with them to try to find an accommodation as much as possible to make it work.
And some of the trees are in what's considered the public right-of-way, and we still try to avoid those as well. But some people have the misconception that that's their tree. But if it's in the right-of-way, it's actually a town tree. But we still do try to save those because, we do actually add trees with sidewalks sometimes too. So.
Right. I know, Angela, you were about to say something.
And it's not just trees. Also, I've heard residents talk about their shrubs, their azaleas, and so it's trees and shrubs that you're willing to work with them and perhaps transplant. Correct?
Right. And also, some people build kind of like hardscape or, something that's not like a rock wall or something, and we try to accommodate those as well as much as possible. We might be able to kind of rebuild it on their property line, fences in their public right-of-way. We don't just come through and tear the fence out. Well, if we can relocate it in kind, we'll just relocate it, or we'll put a new fence in on the property that matches.
And Mike, you also have some great examples that you shared with the public about how the sidewalk can encroach towards the curb and go around a tree. There was a great example you shared on Cottage, I believe,
Street,
where you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
So Public Works is trying to keep as many trees as they can while still trying to build a safe, walkable town for us.
Yeah. And some of the other concerns people have is kind of impact to their property. One of the things that's not obvious when you're just walking in the street is where is the property lines on their property. And a good rule of thumb is it's generally about 8 to 12 feet behind the curb. But a good way to tell is kind of locate your water meter. And that's normally about where your property line is, to give you an idea of the amount of space there is between the curb and your property. Some people have concerned about their taxes or their assessments going up because of this. We've actually reached out to the county assessor's office, and they've indicated to us that the property assessments are based on the property only and what's on the property. So a sidewalk is not on a private property and therefore would not be included in a tax assessment. But sidewalks do improve the real estate value. So it does increase the value of a property, but not the tax assessment. And then one of the other ones I get often is, well, who's going to shovel the snow? Well, the town maintains the sidewalk in a sense that we will repair it or replace it. But the town's not going to shovel your sidewalk, nor is there a law, though, that requires you to shovel a sidewalk. So that's a big question that I get many times.
I think everyone's having flashbacks to, 8 years ago when we had 3 feet of snow, and what would I have done with all that if I had a sidewalk? A few more that I've heard, maybe increased foot traffic with dogs and maybe residents not picking up their dog's business, or maybe kids walking on the sidewalk and discarding granola bar wrappers. And so just some litter, which I think those are fair concerns, and certainly if I look at the benefits of sidewalk, the walkability, the connectivity, I think that far outweighs picking up a granola bar wrapper.
So Mike, what is the status of this initiative right now? So where are we in the process, and have any sidewalks been built?
Okay. We have not built any yet. We have 4 approved sidewalks. Those are on Cabin Road southeast, Holmes Drive northwest, Plum Street southwest, and recently Cherry Street was also approved. So for the first 3 I mentioned, we're about 50% design, and we're in the process of reaching out to individual property owners to discuss the project and also request what's called a temporary right of entry. So when we build a sidewalk, although it's on public property, in order to build it, we might have to encroach or step onto a property during construction. So that's called a temporary right of entry that just gives us the authority and the agreement with the property owner that, hey, yes, we're going to do this, and everyone's in agreement. So we're in the process of getting those out. That's a lot of work because we have to prepare all the documents that go with that. So we're doing that, and Cherry Street was just approved, so we're working on an engineering proposal to get that design started. There's 5 streets that are kind of pending further review. And then there's 14 potential new projects that we just sent letters out last week. So residents should have received those at this point. And so we're waiting on some feedback for those.
And on average, how long does it take to complete a project from start to finish? It's about 18 months, 12 months?
I would say it's probably 18 to 24 months. We're trying to be as efficient and expeditious as possible, but it takes time to really get all the gears going and the paperwork and all the processes going. So,
okay. So, Mike, if someone is listening to this program and watching on Zoom, as they may be doing right now, and interested in seeing if their street is eligible for the Robinson Trust sidewalks, what should they do next?
Well, we have an email address called sidewalks@viennava.gov, or they can call the Public Works at 703-255-6380, and a staff member can talk to them. They'll be directed to a staff member.
Okay. And go ahead, Angela.
And just to add maybe an exclamation point to something you said earlier, Mike, when you do send out these letters, we really want to hear and need to hear from all of the residents that get the letters. So if you could, it sounds like there's an email address, there's a website you can go to, there's a self-addressed envelope, all the ways that you can reach out to the town so we can hear your feedback, either in support or concerns. And if there are concerns, either a member from the Pedestrian Advisory Committee or Town Council or someone from Public Works would come out and hear your concerns or see your unique situation at the front of your property. But we need to hear back from everybody. And if we don't hear back from you, we're going to come knock on your door and try to get hear from you that way. So please do connect with us and let's hear your feedback on the sidewalk on your property.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that question. I know that there's a team of you that kind of connect with residents. I know, Angela, you're part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Alcinia might be part of that, others. So what's the touch point? What should residents expect as far as having communication with you, and what would it look like?
Yeah. I don't know, Mike, if you want to take the first part of that.
Sure. Well, I mean, if there are questions or if if we don't get a response, I think somebody from the town will be kind of reaching out and just touching base and trying to understand what the concern is. A lot of times most of the concerns can be worked through and mitigated. And so
Yeah, I think the first line of defense is is working with Public Works and your team handling the questions, the more logistics questions. But then Town Council is partnering with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and we are going out and would talk to residents if they have some specific concerns.
The last two are for the mayor. She's been sitting patiently there. Please tell us a little bit about Mon Robinson. We keep saying her name, and she was a fixture for many years here, part of the fabric of Vienna. Some residents may not be aware of her work on behalf of the impact of our community. So who was Mon Robinson?
Well, Maud was an amazing woman, no doubt. She came here from the north with Charlie. I believe they met at UVA Law School. She was there, but they moved to Vienna, and they didn't have kids of their own, and really, I mean, I believe she looked at Vienna as her family. And they, they walked everywhere. She was involved in many things. She was a member of Historic Vienna. She was a member of the Air Hill Garden Club, and not just a member, but an active, like really active member. She loved the history of Vienna, and she gave talks on it. And she, was an active gardener. She also was on several commissions. So Charlie was a loved mayor and wonderful, wonderful guy. When he passed away as mayor, they appointed my mom to fill his space. She was on council at the time, and they appointed Maud for my mom's position on council to fulfill that. Well, ends up both of them did a good job, and people said, Maud, you're a great councilwoman. Of course, she knew everything about the town, and she was a huge supporter of her husband and went to the meetings, and so was just ready to step in, and so she was on the town council and did a great job. But just a woman that was very straightforward with you, which I appreciated, and sharp as a tack. I mean, till her last breath, really was just great lady.
Yeah, I remember meeting her when I first got here, and she was just very gracious to me and my wife and children, and always sent us a Christmas card every year. And she was very, very, very thoughtful, wonderful person. Lastly, what do you think that she hoped to achieve with this final gift to the town?
Well, she was on town council, of course, and I mentioned her husband was mayor. So they knew how expensive sidewalks were, and they knew the hoops that they have to go through and everything. But you know what? She also, I think, wanted to connect the town. I mean, I think connecting neighbors, because they did so much walking, and on their walks they would talk to so many people, and that was just a great way for them to meet people. And so I think they saw it as a way of, a gift of connecting Vienna, really, residents to each other, to downtown, just the whole community.
Well, that's really great. Well, thank you everyone for participating in the panel portion of this. We are way ahead of schedule, which is good. So that means more time for questions from Zoom land. So I don't know if we have any questions from the Zoom chat room, but we will see if we have any questions, and we'll answer them the best that we can. There aren't any? No questions. Okay, so there are no questions. We'll wait a few minutes and see if there are any questions. If not, we'll end a little early here, but I just want to give it a few more minutes.
She must have had the foresight to know there'd be a pandemic where everyone is stuck at home and not taking vacations and wanting to interact with people outside.
I know. What a time
Who would have
to
thought?
Be getting sidewalks, really.
I know.
Amazing. Yeah. So I've seen more people out walking. I know I've been walking more.
Yeah. Myself included.
Right.
Yeah, I have.
And something else, well, now I just forgot. I was something else about sidewalks. I can't remember what it was. Well, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I was hoping somebody would ask another question. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. so many times residents, they're a little hesitant about that sidewalk, not knowing about it. And I will tell you, I've seen it happen again and again. They're not 100% for it. And then it goes in and they're like, oh, that's the greatest thing. We love it. And they admit it, So I'm just saying that keep an open mind. Hopefully, residents will keep an open mind because it really is a great way to connect our community.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention was the fact that it's like $8 million, I think, to spend on these sidewalks. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of sidewalks. So there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of the residents and communities to be impacted. And I think you even had like a list of maybe it's like 15 or 20 streets or something that could be impacted, something like that, by that number.
Yeah, we have about a master list of about 20, and then we've added a couple more that we can get through. Once we get through these 14, there's some more we can try.
And the great thing about this list is they probably would have been very low on the priority list without this trust, because they already had curb and gutter. And they weren't routes to school, safe routes to school, where other grants would have come in. So I think they would have been very low on the priority list. They get bumped up.
Yeah.
That's so true.
That's a great point.
Okay, I'll check one last time. Are there any questions? No. Okay, no questions. Okay. Well, thank you for spending time out of your busy schedule to connect with our residents here. I mean, the purpose is to make sure that residents feel connected with Town Hall and aware of things going on. That's very important to the town. So thank you very much. You all out there, it's good to be with you and to be able to communicate with you on this very important topic. Our next On Deck with Mercury will be in December, and the topic will be COVID-19 update. We will have with us Dr. Gloria Adu-Ayensu, who is the director of the Fairfax County Health Department. And so we'll have a wonderful dialogue with her next month, so please tune in then. So until next time, continue to stay safe and slow to spread, and have a wonderful rest of your fall. Thanks a lot. Take care.